You've rephrased the argument from ignorance to make it seem like not an argument from ignorance. I can do the same with anything like lightning.
How is it
There's
an
no
argument?
difference. It's because we can't explain it, and you then assume it's not natural or that there's some fundamentally different thing just because we can't explain it with the.
How is that not assuming naturalism? You're assuming the conclusion you want. It's got to be natural, or else it's an argument from ignorance.
Because everything we've discovered in the universe so far has been natural, and so we have good inductive reason that this will also be natural. Just like assuming we couldn't explain lightning 3,000 years ago. The best explanation is it's an undiscovered natural thing, not that there's a new category of reality to explain it.
Okay, so Cliff, you said rationality cannot come from non-rationality.
Correct.
So I could say walls cannot come from non-walls. Now, obviously that's false because bricks aren't walls, but you can build a wall out of bricks. So the fact that you have walls can come from non-walls. Likewise, rationality can come from non-rationality. And we can demonstrate this because we can build a stochastic system. There's a paper written by Shannon in 1964 on information theory that shows that information can come from stochastic random non-information based systems. So we can demonstrably prove that rationality can come from non-rationality and have done so. And to say it cannot is a composition division fallacy, just like saying walls cannot come from non-walls. Like we can prove that does not work.
But from what we can say about the Book of Mormon, with the limited amount we have, we've got some good stuff. If it was made up, we wouldn't have those things. If it was made up.
Wait a minute, because if we look at other historical documents like the Iliad and the Odyssey, we can say that a lot of the things written in those books, we can say the same thing about. Like there's a lot of true things in there, but there's also a lot of false things. And we don't consider them to be historically accurate just because some of the stuff it says is true. Take any historical document at all, and we see that it has some true things. We don't then say, well, the other things it says are also true. So like the Iliad and the Odyssey mentions things like Troy, and Troy existed, but it also mentions things like Cyclops and Sirens. We don't grant that the Cyclops and Sirens are true just because we know Troy is true. So even if we grant some of the things are true in Joseph Smith's testimony, that doesn't mean we should give the other claims also credence just because some of the things are true for the same reason. Anything science can't answer, theology also can't answer. For example, take the position of metaphysical naturalism, which is the position that the nature is all there is and there is absolutely no supernatural. Even given all of the evidence of the natural world, that does not show there is no supernatural, because there could always be a supernatural realm out there that we just haven't discovered yet. The same thing applies to claims of a God, like there is only one God. Even if we had as much evidence for a God as we do for the natural world, that would not show the God was not created by another greater God for the exact same reason. There could always be another greater God out there that we just haven't discovered yet. This also applies to all metaphysical properties like all-powerful God, all-knowing God, all-loving, eternal, necessary, defined insanity, pure actuality, etc. There could always be another God out there that we just haven't discovered yet, which is more powerful, more knowledgeable, more good, etc. Which means that no form of human knowledge can justify those properties of anything. So if you just define God as not created or any of those other properties, it's simply an admission you are making an unsupported metaphysical claim, and I can just define the alternative like pantheism as uncreated, all-powerful, all-good, perfectly simple, etc. So just defining your explanation as having these metaphysical properties works for everything and is evidence of nothing.
You guys mentioned that Jesus's ethical theory was like revolutionary, but as far as I know, Jesus said nothing original. Like all of the things Jesus espoused predated Jesus, like the golden rule specifically came from Hinduism before Jesus and Jainism before Hinduism. I don't know of anything unique that Jesus did ethically that didn't exist before that.
You're right on the majority of that, but the two you're missing is one, completely unique to Christianity, is love your enemies.
No.
Second one, overcome evil with good.
So I just found 6 quotes that predate Jesus. Do not return evil onto your adversary. Requite with kindness to the one who does evil to you. Maintain justice for your enemy. The Akkadian Council of Wisdom, circa 2000 BC. Buddhism, in the world, hate never yet dispelled hate. Only love dispel hate. This is the law, ancient exhaustible. The Dhammapada from mentioned Buddhism. Return love for hatred. Otherwise, when a great hatred is reconciled, some of it will surely remain. How can this end in goodness? Taoist Tai Xiang King Ping Ping, circa 200 BC. So no, that is definitely not originated in Jesus at all.
You've manipulated the data, and then you've ambiguated the texts in the Puranas to make them fit events in history, which they may or may not. They're ambiguity fallacies. You could make them fit tons and tons of different dates and different events. And so you've picked the most significant ones and assigned those to the dates, which is pretty easy. That's most religions do that. So I don't see from the text that I have read in the Puranas, they don't seem to explicitly state the sun of the earth has this exact date. It seems to be a generalization about lots of different things that could apply to anything: the sun, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe, anything that could hit the earth could do these. So there's lots of things they could apply to your specific dates, which I don't see agreeing with the general understanding of the Puranas dates, which is, again, yours is different from a factor of 2. So I think those dates are really nice. I think your dates are strange. So, but again, it seems like you're cherry picking. You've cherry picked a few dozen dates that are really nice. And even if they're every single date and none of the dates are wrong, they still got everything else wrong. So saying that you mentioned this a few times, that the Puranas are not meant to be taken as literal descriptions of history, except for these 12 examples that you have cherry picked, because these are the ones that you think count for a god. Now, if all of the Puranas were a historical account, that would be great evidence. You had hundreds and hundreds of examples of historical facts that all lined up with history. That would be great evidence. Cherry picking a dozen or so while everything else fails and saying, well, everything else is just really, it's not really supposed to be taken literally, seems to be cherry picking, just like what religious people do in Christianity or Islam, where they say these dates are really nice, these fit really well, but these things are supposed to be taken like not so literally. They're not real. Global flood, nah, that was more figurative. It's like a local flood kind of a thing. So as far as I can tell, I don't see how this is great evidence.
So we know that both the Old Testament and the New Testament are not reliable sources of data, as confirmed by the consensus of historians in the field. We know that testimony does not work to justify miracle claims. So no, we are not justified in believing that somehow there is a magical being that rose from the dead based off of a book written 2,000 years ago by non-eyewitnesses 70 years after the fact. And even if they were, that wouldn't be justified. So we can conclude that based off of these facts, Christianity, it's unreasonable to believe Christianity is true based off of the Bible alone. And so we'd have to consider, are there any other factors? In order to be evidence that Christianity is true, you need some way to differentiate imagination from reality. And that's what evidence is. Evidence is whatever can accurately differentiate between, is this imaginary or is this real? In science, the way we do that is novel testable predictions, which may not be the only way. If you could provide a different way, that's perfectly fine too. But an acceptable measure of evidence is novel testable prediction. So if Christianity was true, a good basis of evidence for it would be if you could say, if I believe in God, this is the case, and if we can do this experiment to get this result and it happens, that would be good evidence. And the fact that Christianity has been unable to provide any such examples is good evidence that it's just imaginary. The point of providing evidence that can differentiate imagination from reality is that we can come up with infinitely many imaginary explanations of anything, like what knocked over that cup. Well, maybe it was the wind, maybe somebody knocked the table over, maybe it was the squirrels, maybe it was invisible aliens, magical specters, magical unicorns, a god. You can just make up infinitely many imaginary ways to explain what knocked over that cup. And so we need some way to filter out all those imaginary ones. And until you can do that, it's reasonable to conclude that whatever your explanation is, it's imaginary until demonstrated otherwise. So until theists can provide a way to differentiate imagination from reality, then it's reasonable to conclude that their explanation is purely imaginary and nothing but something come up with in their heads.
What you should have said was, I have 4 points that are inexplicable through natural means. The 4 points in collection are fetal alcohol syndrome, correcting scientific errors in the Bible, scientific revolution, and these 4 facts about the bees. Like, if you just said that in 5 seconds, that would have been a great summation of your argument. All those can be explained perfectly naturally. There's nothing about them that can't be. So fetal alcohol syndrome, if you ban alcohol and you punish it with severe beatings and death, you can definitely convince people to stop drinking. So sure, that's perfectly explained naturally. Correct scientific errors in the Bible. All newer books can correct the facts in older books. It's very simple. If you have new information, you can write that new information down, which corrects the old information. No supernatural required there. Scientific revolution happened in many societies, happened before Islam. China had a golden revolution. Israel had a golden revolution. The Incan society had a golden revolution. Everyone had a golden revolution. No supernatural required there. And 4 facts about the bees. It's just vague. It doesn't say anything about female bees, so they're too vague to say anything of value. And they're all pretty much common knowledge that was already known by Greece beforehand. So nothing about that is particularly spectacular. Every one of these facts can be done by a human being with no God. Which means, given your definition, and at the very beginning, you said a Quran is a scientific miracle, which means it is not possible for there to be a naturalistic explanation. That's what you said. I can quote you for it. I wrote it down. That means, based on the definition of possible, you are wrong. definitively proven wrong, because it is possible, and we can prove it's possible because we can imagine it. There is no logical contradiction. Therefore, it's possible. Therefore, your original definition has been proven wrong with
Because you
absolute
can
certainty.
imagine it happening.
That's what
You can
possible means, Nadir. That's what possible means.
I guess I might have a different definition than what
Okay,
you.
that's why I asked. How do you define possible?
Well, first of all, let me just, I feel like I'm really not able to, express what I want to say because you keep interrupting me, and I feel like once you start doing that kind of stuff, it's just walk away from the guy. That's why I kind of want to walk away from this discussion, because I feel like, and I told you that we should have a debate. You should have a set time limit so that.
I'm happy with the debate. Everyone in my comments is enjoying this thoroughly. We're enjoying it.
Hey,
So
you could bring me here. You could tar and feather me, try to talk me down, try to embarrass me. That's fine. You can do that. I'm not claiming to be some kind of Teflon Don. So I think I feel like I've made my point with you, and I feel like there's no point in continuing like this. So I think we should just call it a day.
Sure. I'm happy with that. C'est la vie. The Quran has been debunked thoroughly. Thank you for talking.